So what happens when a country's political disagreements stop feeling like debates and start feeling like an actual war? Today, we're going to break down an analysis of how two really tragic deaths in the U.S. became the fuel for a fire that honestly threatens to burn the whole house down. It's a story that exposes some deep, volatile divisions.
Right off the bat, the source article we're digging into uses this Time magazine headline to set the stage. This is war. And that's not just a dramatic headline, it's a stark claim that the battle of ideas has escalated into something way, way more dangerous.
At the very heart of this analysis is a powerful argument that these two deaths weren't just seen as isolated tragic crimes. Nope. Instead, they were immediately seized upon as symbols, pushing an already polarized nation to what the author calls a really dangerous tipping point.
Okay, so to build this case, the article really zooms in on two human stories. Let's take a look at the actual events that ignited this whole firestorm, starting with the first victim.
This is Irina Zarutska. And her story, as the article points out, is just filled with this awful, tragic irony. She was only 23 years old, a refugee who had fled the war in Ukraine and come to the U.S. looking for one thing: safety.
But here's where things just exploded, according to the source. Zarutska was stabbed on public transport. The article notes her attacker was an African-American man who had a long criminal record, while Donald Trump weighed in almost immediately, blaming so-called catch-and-release policies. But the author claims another thing poured gasoline on the fire, a feeling that mainstream media wasn't covering it enough, which just fueled this massive, racially charged debate online.
Okay, so if that first case was the spark, this second one, well, the source describes it as political dynamite. This involved Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old conservative activist, and a very vocal, very influential supporter of Donald Trump.
So Kirk was shot and killed right in the middle of a debate on a university campus. The article calls him a foot soldier for the Republican movement, someone known for his really strong stance against immigration. And the fact that his attacker is still unidentified, well, according to the source, that is just deepened the suspicion among his followers. They see it as a political assassination, absolute proof that their side is being violently silenced.
So you have these two terrible, terrible events. Now let's get into how this blew up into a political firestorm. Because the article argues it's all about interpretation. The exact same facts were filtered through two completely different political lenses.
And to really show you the intensity here, the article gives us this direct quote from Donald Trump about Kirk's death. He frames it not just as a murder, but as, quote, a direct attack on free debate and the values of this country. With language like that, this stops being just a crime. It becomes an act of political war.
And here's where the article just lays out the two competing realities side by side. For the right, Zarutska's death is proof positive that leftist policies make cities unsafe, while Kirk's death is evidence that conservative voices are being targeted. But for the left, the narrative is that figures like Kirk spread fear and extremism that, inevitably leads to conflict. Two events leading to two totally irreconcilable conclusions.
But to really get why this firestorm is so intense, the author argues we have to look deeper. We have to go beyond the headlines and look at the underlying currents in American society, specifically things like race and demographics.
So the author gives us this demographic data as a really crucial backdrop for the political talk we're about to get into. You can see the U.S. population is roughly 60% white, with large African-American, Hispanic, and Asian communities. Just kind of keep these numbers in the back of your mind because they are absolutely central to the next point.
And this demographic landscape is exactly where the author introduces what they call the replacement narrative. The analysis connects some of the rhetoric from figures like Charlie Kirk to this very controversial idea, this belief that white Americans are being demographically and culturally replaced. It's a message, the article suggests, that resonates deeply with the conservative base, while at the same time alienating many, many other communities.
And all of this brings us to the article's conclusion. The author kind of zooms out and argues that what's happening in America isn't just an American problem. No, it's a cautionary tale for the rest of the world.
The central warning is this: when a society's politics get so polarized that your opponents are no longer rivals but enemies, that society is on a path to self-destruction. And the author specifically directs this warning to their audience in India, drawing parallels to its own growing political divides. The article then boils down the American experience into three really clear lessons. First, debate but don't demonize. Second, disagree but don't divide. And third, remember that your national identity, your unity, has to come before any political ideology.
So ultimately, the author's final takeaway is a stark one. These two deaths have revealed just how fragile democracy can be
when polarization turns into actual hatred. The message is simple. Without unity, even the most powerful nations on Earth can descend into chaos.
And that leaves us with the central question that this whole situation poses. It's a question for America for sure, but it's also a warning for the whole world. When a nation's politics truly become war, what is the ultimate price that every single person pays?